In this video, we'll learn to use Sketch-A-Stitch to open and save embroidery designs. And so probably one of the first things you're going to want to do is stitch out your latest creation. And so if you've been using the software and drawn something that you just absolutely love and want to sew it out, then you're going to choose File and Save or Save As. And initially they're the same, but once you've saved something once, clicking Save will simply save it with the same name to the same location. But choosing Save As always gives you the ability to interact with the Save As box and choose where you save it and in what format. And when I make a design like this, I always save it in the Floriani format first. And so we'll call this Design 1 WAF. And there's already one on my desktop. So look, it's probably going to warn me and says, hey, are you sure? Do you want to replace this? And we'll say, yeah, why not? So now we have a file on our computer that's been saved in this Floriani format. And that's really important to always save the Floriani format because, of course, as you know, we may have just traced this shape. And it's now a shape in our software that we could select and make changes to settings like the type of pattern fill it is, or the type of underlay embroidery stitching there is, or even change the direction of the fill itself, just really make changes to it. And so based on all of that, saving it in the WAF format, the file and save as, the first format we usually save to is this Floriani format. But of course, your sewing machine is not going to be able to read that Floriani format. That's just so that you can go back to these files and make changes to them later. When you want to sew them out, you're going to need to choose one of the machine formats. And when you look under files of type, there are plenty of different machine formats, including long arm quilt formats, commercial embroidery machine formats, and all kinds of popular domestic embroidery machine formats. And so if you choose the PES format, now you'll save your design as the PES embroidery file. Now, I can save it to my desktop, but if I'm really wanting to take it to my embroidery machine, I probably want to choose this PC and find like a USB drive that I could save it onto that. And that is kind of how it works, right? You decide where you're saving it to, what format, and then you save. And so if I save a PES file to my USB stick, I can take that to a Baby Lock or a Brother embroidery machine and stitch it out. But I did make the WAF file so that I can return to it if I want to make changes to these shapes or to the settings of those shapes. And so you can always make a new stitch file, and you don't have to save all of the, if you're only going to keep one file, keep the Floriani file. Save all your Floriani files in a folder that says all my, sketches. And then when you need to stitch them out, you can make the PES. And I'm not saying it's wrong to save your PES files and go ahead and make PES files. Just know that it's more valuable to us to open the WAF. If you've made a WAF, you should save it so that you can open it later. Now that said, you do have the ability to open any format. And so to talk about opening designs, instead of saving them, if we choose the open option, now it allows us to browse the folders of your computer or a USB stick and select on a design to open it. And again, it can open any embroidery format. And right now it's set to look for all formats. If you just want to see a specific format and you tell it, I only want to see PES, it will only show you PES files. But if you leave that set to all designs, it means all embroidery formats. There may be other things on your computer that Sketch-A-Stitch doesn't open. And those things won't show in this view window. If it's in this view window, it's because it's something you're allowed to open. So when I choose this PES file to open it, there is an option box that says Convert to Outlines. And I'm going to leave it unchecked to begin with and say Open. And so it will open up our embroidery design, and I could easily select on the yellow egg and change it to be a blue colored egg if you wanted to. So this is kind of the concept that you've opened your design and now you can make changes to it or add to it, of course, by turning on your sketch tool and adding new elements. But if I take my select tool and I select the design that I opened, As much as I'm able to move it around or even resize it, if I do resize it, it doesn't generate new stitches. And I'll just point out that it says there's 14,500 stitches, and even if I make it smaller or I make it bigger, still the same 14,500. So the software does have the ability to resize a design and make new stitches, and that's when you need to choose the little magic checkbox. So when I click open and I select that PES embroidery design, I need to tell it convert to outlines if I want to be able to allow my software to make changes to the stitches. So it's a question that you kind of always ask yourself, because if you're just opening your design and you want to add a little bit of embroidery, but you're not planning on having this original embroidery changed in any way, it's maybe best not to check that button off. Because once you check convert to outlines, it does give the software the ability to change the original stitches. For example, I could select a portion, any one part of this embroidery design could be selected, and I could interact with its density or its stitch length or its underlay type. And so you have the ability to further edit designs that you didn't make. And certainly looking towards editing designs, then you may grow into something like an FTCU software, which has a lot of tools for editing designs that you already made. But here with Sketch-A-Stitch, you get the beginning of it, which is the ability to convert the stitches into shapes. And now if I select this whole design and make it larger, the software will generate new stitches based upon when it opened up our stitches. It read their densities. It understood that this egg's fill was a 0.52 density, and so when I made it bigger, it filled that shape in with the same 0.52 density as before. And so now the design, if you look at the top, says it has 17,000 stitches. And so that's called stitches to objects conversion, and it allows your software to generate new stitches. So sometimes I turn it on because I want the software to generate new stitches. Sometimes I don't turn it on and I leave it turned off because I don't want the software to change my design in any way. And certainly you can size change any design without adding any new stitches. A small amount, 5, 10, 15, even 20% oftentimes is perfectly fine without changing any stitches. Sometimes it just lightens it up a little bit. That said, if you've got a design and you really want to make large size changes, it's possible to do that. And if need be, you can add elements to it with your sketching tool. And so this is kind of the way it works. You either open a design and choose convert to outlines or not, depending on whether or not you want the software to make your embroidery design fully editable. And of course, when you're saving designs, then you're going to always remember to save the Floriani format and then save your most popular machine format next.